you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, and I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, your host. Thanks for joining us. It is Freewheeling Friday. We'll go over the questionnaire today. Again, what made the cut, what didn't, and over the weekend too. By the way, we'll be hitting back a little bit. We'll start when we're like halfway there. I was a little bit wrong. Wednesday, I thought we were about 1/5 of the way there. I checked. As of this morning, we're about 1/5 of the way there, so we do need to kick it up a little bit to make it a little bit easier. Laura and I are going to have something built on big data polls, so it works.
More efficient.
So it's more efficient for you guys. Okay, all right. So and then also too, it's more transparent, which is really what we're all about over here. So you will see how much is raised. You'll have the ability to put your name to it or not. You can make it anonymous. It'll basically look like a GoFundMe or even similar to a campaign contribution thing, only with a contributor wall. All right. It'll look a lot like that, only it will be native on the website itself. It'll be native on Big Data Poll itself. All right. All right. So with that, there's a couple other things though before we get into that I want to talk about. I gotta read this letter. All right, from the former president. It's hilarious, but it really is. You know, we had that show earlier in the week, Back to Business as Usual under Biden, and this says it all. Why real reason they hate Donald Trump is in the first two paragraphs of this man's letter. All right, so statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. Karl Rove has been losing for years, except for himself. He's a rhino of the highest order who came to the Oval Office lobbying for 5G for him in a group. After a lengthy discussion with Rove and Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, I said no, they're not qualified. Our nation can do much better. On election evening, November 3rd at 10:30 p.m., Rove called to congratulate me on, quote, a great win, unquote. I said, thank you, Karl, only to watch the rig election take its final form. Two things right off the bat you need to know. One, Karl Rove was rejected. He thought he could tell people, his business and his benefactors, his business interests, his friends, I have an in with the president. Let me see what I can do. And he was rejected, and that makes you look horrible to people that you're smoozing, right? You look terrible when you tell people you may be able to deliver on something, and then you cannot deliver. This is just like Andrew Napolitano, all right? And then they go on Fox News, and Fox News is happy to be used like this in many ways, and it's sad, but it's true. With the exception of, or I would say the non-Tucker Fox is happy to be used like this a lot. Right? I don't think Tucker would tolerate that on his show, but Judge Napolitano very much the same way. You get favorable political analysis on Fox News until you're told that you're not going to get that judicial appointment. Andrew Napolitano ran around telling everybody he was going to be the next Supreme Court justice. When that didn't happen, he was mad. He was embarrassed. Because I'm telling you, whenever parties, events, gatherings, telephone calls, email, right? I'm going to be the Supreme Court justice. I'm going to be Trump's pick. Didn't work out. Because Trump doesn't trade favors like that. Trump trades favors like endorsements, which we're going to talk about soon. But he doesn't trade favors he doesn't trade public office favors for favorable political coverage or analysis or legal analysis on Fox News. And you might have noticed Karl Rove got pretty pro-Trump for a minute there on Fox. He was even on Hannity with his whiteboard a bunch of times. Bashing the polls, bashing political analysis, until Donald Trump told him no. And then his tone changed really quick, didn't it? The truth is, the architect has been highly overrated for too many years. The truth is, the architect barely squeaked his guy by with 10,000 votes in Iowa, a state Donald Trump won by nearly double digits. The truth is, the architect's boss lost the state of Iowa for the Republican Party for almost a decade. Until Donald Trump came around, and still Republicans wouldn't have had it if it wasn't for Donald J. Trump. Mitt Romney could not carry the state of Iowa. Barack Obama won it by 12 points after Bush barely squeaked by. Barely. Did I mention barely? He was reelected by the skin, like the hair on his chinny chin. That isn't an architect. That's a lucky SOB. All right? Anyway, second thing. Karl Rove thought he won the election. I've told you guys this before. All of these so-called geniuses were calling the president and telling the president the margins were too much for the mail-in fraud. Don't listen to people like this guy. Nobody has ever done that on that scale. These are not smart people. They don't understand the nature of their enemies, number one. And number two, they're dinosaurs, man. Karl Rove should have been gone by now. That meteor hit his planet 2 decades ago. He is that kind of dinosaur, man. We should be looking at nothing but fossils of Karl Rove. He's ancient history.
And examining where they went wrong.
Right. Karl Rove's voice on Fox News, and here, let me put figure eight, is always negative for those who know how to win. There has never been a truer statement. Do you remember his flip out in 2012? Some of you may not know this because I know a lot of you are recent participants to the political process. Karl Rove lost his damn mind on election night on Fox News in 2012 when the decision desk called Ohio for Barack Obama. He was flipping out. Franklin County. There's still votes out in Fred. These suburbs are very red. It was over.
Wasn't it the same year that Beckel announced like
that was 14?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm making
that was 14.
Yeah, that was funny.
But anyway, Megyn Kelly had to get up, stroll over to the decision desk, and tell everybody why Ohio was gone for Mitt Romney, a state Donald Trump won by nearly double digits twice. Okay, so Karl Rove's voice on Fox News is always negative for those who know how to win. He certainly hasn't helped Fox in the ratings department, has he? I also want to note that after 2012, Fox News gave the axe to a ton of political analysts. Barone, that other guy, Dick Morris, all right? These guys, their heads were all served up But because of his connection to the Bush family, Karl Rove was spared. Even though he said nothing to the viewers that, Barone and Morris and the rest of them, he echoed their sentiment. The polls were skewed. They oversampled Democrats. There aren't going to be this many black voters in the electorate this time. Go back and look for posterity. Karl Rove was no more right than Bob Beckel and a lot of them who got the axe after the 2012 election. Fox News did a shuffle of political analysts because they called the election so badly. Even Dana Perino was unskewing polls. You remember? Look at that now. Where is she? So two people with connections to the Bushies not only don't get the axe, but thrive at this organization, while everybody else gets put on the chopping block.
But Rove did have to disappear for a little bit to simmer down.
He did disappear for a little bit, yeah. But he never was his...
No,
it was never, right.
Yeah.
Never had much of a feeling for Karl, in that I disagree with so many of the things he says. He's a pompous fool with bad advice and always has an agenda. He ran the campaign for 2 senators in Georgia and did a rotten job with bad ads and concepts. Look, folks, 100% true. Matt, you know what I'm talking about. Another great pollster who knows his state, was an early red flagger when we had Purdue and Loeffler down. Matt had basically Purdue in a tie, but Loeffler down. He was early on it, though, saying these guys are going to lose. The campaigns are not smart. They're not running credible messaging strategies. They're just not effective. Loeffler's running. Everyone's trying to scare people with the socialism word instead of addressing their insider trading scandals head on. They also were deeply, deeply arrogant and believed that Donald Trump actually weighed them down in November, because they can't understand that the Perdues, the Loefflers, the Tillises, and a lot of them all get more from the Donald Trump coalition than Donald Trump ever got from them. So without those 350,000 voters to come out for Trump, they could not win. They couldn't. Look, the northern part of that state, which is the more typical Republican, north of Atlanta, north of the Atlanta suburb, they came out, Laura. That was not a bad turnout. Where Republican turnout suffered was, guess where? Where the big data poll said it was going to suffer, in the central and southern and coastal regions of the state. Why? Those are ancestral, working class, Democratic areas that Trump turned more Republican. Without him, they don't vote. So get it. That's what happened. That is what happened, whether you want to believe it or not. Should have been an easy win, but he and his friends Mitch blew it with their $600 versus $2,000 proposal. That's another thing. That thing polled about as popular as, like, never mind. I'm gonna
stop.
Yeah, I mean that was the dumbest political decision, dumbest miscalculation I have seen in a campaign in a very long time. Karl would be much more at home at the disastrous Lincoln Project. I've heard they have numerous openings, and the reason why he's throwing a jab at them is because Karl Rove knew all about John Weaver's aberrant, to be nice, downright deviant behavior with young boys. Grooming young men who want to be in the political arena for favors, for sexual relationships in exchange for favors. You're going to talk about somebody's character? Karl Rove knew all about it. He got a smear piece in the Atlantic run about him when he deigned to open his mouth one time about it. It wasn't even strong. And he got punked back into submission, right? Mm-hmm. He got punked back into submission. And then went right back to allowing John Weaver to run around the country and do what John Weaver does. By the way, 2016, everything's going on with John Kasich. Weaver was his guy. Karl Rove said nothing. Think about it. Think about the night with the Super Tuesday double whammy. They were going to stop him in Ohio. They were going to stop him in Florida. You remember that? Vote for John in Ohio. Vote for Marco in Florida. Meanwhile, John Kasich, who also has rumors about him, John Kasich has this deviant as his right-hand man, and Karl Rove says nothing. And we're talking about the character of Donald J. Trump. That's what dominated the conversation. That is what always, now you guys know why I always get so heated over this and why I cannot stand how they make it about his character, or try to make it about his character. These are not people like the old
the decency argument. I know
he who lives in a glass house
does not
should not throw stones. Okay? So that's why you see Trump taking a dig at him right there. Maybe you should go with the Lincoln Project. I hear they have many openings. If the Republican, there would, there would be no John Weaver and no Lincoln Project if Karl Rove had a pair, If the Republican Party is going to be successful, they're going to have to stop dealing with the likes of Karl Rove and just let him float away or retire. Like Little, with 2 Ds, Little Bob Corker, Jeff Flaky Flake, and others like Toomey of Pennsylvania who will soon follow. Absolutely will. Because without Donald Trump on the ballot in Pennsylvania, Pat Toomey can no longer win. All right, the midterm rush is over. Gone are the days of Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell and their candidates like Pat Toomey hoping on a win and a prayer that black people, young people, and women are going to stay home in a midterm. That's over. They're just going to write them in and mail them. That's gone. So without Donald Trump on the ballot, Pat Toomey cannot win in the state of Pennsylvania. If it weren't for me, the former president says, the House would have lost 25 seats instead of gaining 15. It was a shock to everyone and almost cost Pelosi her speaker position. Likewise, 8 to 10 senators would have lost their position, including Carl's friend Mitch, our wonderful leader who would rather spend his time fighting me than Pelosi, Schumer, and Sleepy Joe. In the last year's congressional primaries, I'm not, going to tout his record. All right, but 31 million people listen to my seatback speech online. And if it had among the largest television audience of the week, even though it was on cable at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoon. Karl Rove is all talk and no action. Next time, Karl, save your election night phone call and keep doing a great job for the Democrats. Fox should get rid of Karl Rove and his ridiculous whiteboard as soon as possible. By the way, again, I
wonder if his wife says that too.
Karl Rove Karl Rove, you said that out loud. Karl Rove spent 2012 whiteboarding the Unskew the Polls movement. Okay? So this is, I had to read this out loud because, I mean, it's incredible.
It's great though.
It's incredible, but this is it.
Yeah.
This is why they
problem.
hate him.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they can't stand him, because you're not supposed to tell those things, Laura.
No.
You're not supposed to tell everybody Karl Rove called you on election night because he thought you had it in the bag. You're not supposed to tell people that. You're not supposed to tell people that Karl Rove came to the White House to lobby for a 5G company and you told him to shove it, and now that's why he gives you negative analysis. I don't know why he never did it sooner with others though, like Judge Napolitano. Everybody knew about that. And it was, by the way, how unethical was it for Fox News? They knew all about it. And then he gets thrown off Fox News for telling the viewers the truth about how the CIA farmed out some of the Spygate stuff on foreign intelligence agencies.
It goes to show you, though, how quick they are to betray you.
That's
because
absolutely.
when you think you belong.
And Shepard Smith had a big role in that. You guys should know that Shepard Smith had a big role in getting Fox to bring Judge Napolitano back on. But of course, it was a quid pro quo. I'll let you back on. You talk trash about Trump every segment, right? Which led to the fight between Judge Napolitano and Tucker Carlson. And Shepard thinking it was a fight. It cost him his job. Like, you're a midday nobody who nobody likes or watches.
He was so angry.
At least 100,000 to 200,000 turned off the channel when Shepard Smith came on. We would watch it on the ratings. Right. I actually banned Tucker from the house. I mean, not Shepard. I banned Shepard from the house. He's a ratings junkie. And he allowed, there are children in the house.
Yeah,
he allowed this guy to blow his brains out on live television. So I'm like, okay, this guy's gone. So he wasn't allowed on. He was irresponsible. I got little kids running around. All right. And if the news is going to be on, they're like hey, Daddy, can I have a juice box? Ah! Traumatized for life. I mean, you can't have that stuff. All right. So, and then there's the other thing. He endorsed John Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy. Look, there aren't too many men in the United States Senate or in Congress like John Kennedy. You may not agree with him all the time or like him, but he is I have never heard of an instance of John Kennedy being a very typical politician, where you tell somebody you're going to do something and then stab them in the back or don't do it. I hear nothing but great things. I've never met the man, but I hear nothing but great things about this guy. Nothing but great things. But Trump would do good to realize that these endorsements are going to lose some value. The more you endorse, the less coveted it becomes. I'm not talking. John Kennedy's a solid endorsement if you're Donald Trump. Tim Scott, I imagine he's paying him back for the speech at the national convention. But Tim Scott's endorsement was not it was not a wise endorsement. It's not a wise way to use your capital. No, it's not.
It's the word.
I mean, we all know why. I'm not going to go through it again. Tim Scott did not like Donald Trump. He thought he was bad for the Republican Party. He thought he was bad for the brand of the Republican Party. And he thought that the Republican Party will do better once Trump is gone. In truth, Tim Scott really did want Donald Trump to lose because he wanted him to go away. That's the truth. And his argument, from what people have told me, and I trust these people, I know these people, they have no reason to lie. And it's multiple people. When he would go around and talk to donors, he would make the case that Donald Trump is going to add a racial stigma to the Republican Party that is going to take them a long time to wipe away, to wash away. He believed Hispanic, black, and brown voters would shun the Republican Party because of Donald Trump for many years to come. So his argument was not only two-faced, or what he would say is not only two-faced, but it was incorrect. It was incorrect. You can't, I don't care what the exit polls say. Take your flawed, phony, bogus exit polls from the America Speaks panel, voter analysis, garbage America Speaks panel. It's not the panel that's garbage. It's the pollster who takes the responses from the panel. But they're very easy because of the demographically diverse panel. Yeah, it's very easy to take that and mess up. We talked about that with Bannon today. It's not America Speaks' fault. It's the people who take it from Reuters. It's the people who are doing it at AP and Fox News.
Preach it.
The AP poll is one of the worst polls. Remind you, their Biden was like plus 14 nationally. Hillary Clinton was plus 13 or 14. They haven't polled a race correctly in a very, very, very long time. Doesn't matter who they get it from. It's not America Speaks is what it's called. It's not their fault. It's what you do with their data that matters. And the same is true, by the way, of YouGov. Because sometimes they just farm out the data, sell the data, and the pollster does what he does with it. You could give 4 different pollsters the same data set, and you're going to get 4 different results. All right? Believe me, it's up to interpretation. And the problem is that they don't know how to interpret the data as it comes in. They don't know what they're really looking for or looking at anymore. And at this point, they know that. And they're using these problems to boost a narrative, which is a catastrophe for this industry because it's going to lead to more and more mess-ups, sadly. All right, so in any event, take the exit polls and shove them. You cannot win Zapata County unless you do better among Hispanics. You cannot nearly win Miami-Dade after getting like 3 out of 10 votes 4 years ago without doing better among Hispanics. You can't get 45% in Clark County unless you did better among Hispanics. All right? I mean, go down the list. Donald Trump slipped a little bit with white voters in Florida. Not much, and certainly not by the margin the Nates of the world told you that he was going to. But he did, nevertheless, slip a little bit. The reason for his doubling the size of his win in the Sunshine State was because of black and brown voters. Not because of white voters. So Tim Scott's argument was not even intellectually sound. All right, so that endorsement, Laura and I were talking about this. I imagine he doesn't want to be like others. I don't know, what is in his mind
This-
here. That he doesn't want to be
I
like
see it as
others.
business.
Yeah,
He
gave
still
the speech
thinks
at
like
the
a
convention,
business.
and he's not going to be like them. So he's going to make good on his side of the deal. Now, granted, Tim Scott, even no matter what he said behind closed doors, still went on Fox News and touted Trump's praised Trump to the moon and back. So I guess that's the way he's thinking. But personally, I wouldn't have done it, Laura. I wouldn't have done it.
But then again, he can go around and say, I don't owe you.
I don't owe you anything. That's what Laura would say. Yeah, I don't owe you anything. So you gave me the speech. I gave it to you back. You supported me on this. I endorsed you here. That's it. We're
now
done.
leave me alone.
We're done. That's it, right?
It's
Wash
like,
your hands. It's a business. It's a business arrangement. You're
what
probably right.
Remember when people
wish I could
tried
ask.
to finagle things, and then I turn around and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
It was worth that price because now I never have to deal with that person again.
Yeah.
End of story.
Now, I just wanted to add that. Oh my God, we burned through the first segment already with that. Because there was more I wanted to do here. There is, there it is. There is a lot we have gone over with this idea of the lockdowns being ahistorical and how there was never any evidence to support these lockdowns. Okay? There is some new data out of the Census Bureau, which is simply, it's just terrible. And I want to go over it because when we talk about, who was hurt by this pandemic, who wasn't, the school-age children, the damage we're going to do from school closures, right? And a lot of people tell me all the time that, well, the public school systems are indoctrination centers. Who gives a damn? I support it. My response to you is that not all parents, first of all, this was a forced transition. Mm-hmm. It was not something we deliberated over and prepared ourselves for. It was a forced transition. And we forced it on millions and millions of parents who do not have the luxury of preparing their children for any kind of homeschooling, let alone even keeping them in public schools to distance learn, right? Here's some data I want to share with you because this is the reality of what this thing did, okay? And what is it going to... Oh, that's fantastic. It blocked it. All right, but I can read them the highlights anyway, which I jotted down. All right. There are around 10 million U.S. mothers living with their school-age children were not actively working in January. Remember this, okay, because we have this employment report that came out today, which the Biden people are touting, all right? I would argue it's nowhere near consistent in what we need to prevent chronic long-term unemployment. Secondly, labor force participation declined. The employment to population ratio, which is less cited, but arguably more important, which I've said this for years, also declined. All right, so here we go again with declining unemployment rates, but also declining labor rates. So that's a methodological gimmick. Mm-hmm. All right, and last month was abysmal. Even the upward revision, because it was 49,000 first. Even the upward revision to 125 roughly, or whatever it came in at, is not enough. 250,000 is needed for population growth. We had all of these people out of work. Mm-hmm. We needed the months like we saw under Trump. 4 million, 1 million. At this point, we needed like 500 constantly for a number of months. Otherwise, that insured unemployment rate, because especially with the CARES Act, CARES Act Part 2 is going to be passed. It's packed with these stupid uninsured unemployment provisions, which are going to lead to what the CARES Act did. People sitting home rather than trying to find work. That's going to happen. All right, but in any event, it wasn't a horrible report, and it was certainly better than we expected, but it wasn't good enough. Here's why.
It's not staunching.
10 million mothers alone were unemployed, not working, in January. 1.4 million more than during the same month last year. Now those aren't only moms who are out of work because of the pandemic. That's not true. It rose about a million and a half, 1.4 from the year prior. So out of the 10 plus million who lost their jobs because of COVID, 1.4 roughly are working mothers with school-age children. Okay? The pandemic has had this is the Census Bureau. The pandemic has had a devastating effect on unemployment overall, but especially on mothers' paid labor. The 10 million not working accounted for over 1/3 of all mothers living with school-aged children. That's horrible. That's according to the current population survey. Last spring, between March and April, some 3.5 million mothers living with school-aged children left active work. So it's even worse than that number initially on the top suggests. They either shifted into paid or unpaid leave, lost their job, or exited the labor market altogether. 1 in 2, almost 45% of mothers with school-aged children were not actively working last April.
It's ridiculous.
That's not enough to get these people back in the workforce. My point is, that is not enough to get them back in the workforce. Okay?
Because you're not staunching the bleed. You're just slowing
you're
the
just
bleed.
slowing it down. You're not stemming it. Yeah. I know. This is very, very, very unfortunate, and it's just not good enough.
This is not good enough. You can't slap gauze on it without stitching it up first.
Yeah.
And if you don't stitch it up, it's just going to keep on
bleeding. Keep on bleeding. And look, this is what we're talking about. Suburban mom. Every time when it came to voting. Look at this. So
I think suburban mom's going to be a little ticked off.
How do you like, this is how like dumb these people are. How do you foresee supporting lockdowns, supporting school closures is going to win these women back? How on earth do you foresee that as a viable strategy? This is all going to get the lockdown thing is going to become toxic. It already is. We went over the Cuomo poll earlier in the week. It really did mirror what we found in California. That was being fueled largely, if you look demographics, along racial lines. It was being fueled by Hispanics, working Hispanics. Why? Because working Hispanics, just like working whites, have to survive too. I don't understand why some people got it in their heads that these women want their kids home so they could go bankrupt. Now, some of them are on paid leave, and that's fine. But paid leave runs out, Laura.
Eventually.
Paid leave is not forever.
And the way the prices are, it's not where the mom can stay at home and dad can go to work. And because we are now in a
we're going backward. Like, we're in a
because gas is being hiked, milk's being hiked, like all the basic necessities.
The retail,
are going to skyrocket, and then you're going to be stuck scraping by. So
they already are.
Yeah, this is a force to go back to the government. This is what they're doing.
That's exactly why it's packed. This bill is packed with all this crap, especially for government workers. We talked about that too. But for those who don't know, they want to continue paid leave for these people. Why? Because they're going to come to the realization soon that they're going to be bankrupt.
Yep.
So for federal workers, they're essentially going to get what most of these other women, this is what pisses me off about this bill. Said it's immoral, and it is. It's one of the most immoral provisions I've seen in a piece of legislation in a really long time. All right. Most of these working mothers don't work for the federal government. You just heard the Census Bureau. The percentage getting paid leave is not a lot. But they want to bribe those people to keep their children in distance learning and stay home to watch them. And the amount of that bribe is how much other working mothers are going to get in a one-time payment. They'll get weekly for up to 14 or 15 weeks. That is incredible. It's just it's a little bit of an injustice. Because I don't understand why federal workers feel or are being told that they're entitled to what some other things that
they're better than you.
I mean, it's like you're creating different classes now of citizens. If you're a federal worker, then you're like a higher citizen. And if you're not, and you're in the private sector, we'll just call you a lesser citizen. Higher and lesser. We have to start creating these tiers. Or a greater citizen and a lesser citizen.
There you go.
Well, that's what they're doing.
That's what's great.
So your children, if you don't work for the federal government, your children are not as important as the children of those who are in households with parents who work for the federal government. This is not the way this is supposed to be.
No.
This is not how this thing is, how we design the society, right? Creating different tiers of people. But anyway, 350,000 jobs a month, when you're looking at numbers like this just for working women with school-aged children, is not enough, especially since it's not 350 a month. It's one good month. The last 2 months have not been good. They have not been.
And then let's just say they do open up certain jobs and these women can go back to work. But guess what? Your children aren't allowed to go back to school.
Right. So right.
You're still,
and that's...
So you're still in that conundrum.
We went over that with the bill. That's right. We went over that with the bill.
Mm-hmm.
What is appropriated, less than 5% of the funds that are allocated towards for schools because of COVID, supposedly, are able to be even used in this fiscal year, which now there's less than 8 months remaining. It doesn't even mean that will be used. It just says it's permitted to be used this year. So it's nothing to do with safely. You could tell clearly it's not a priority to open these schools. Otherwise, they would have front-loaded that money. That is a kickback to teachers' unions who are absolutely going to get their grubby, greedy, scummy little hands all over these billions and billions and billions of dollars. More than 120 plus billion. And how do we know? Because Donald Trump already funded the schools to safely reopen. The CDC laid out their plan months and months and months before Joe Biden was even considering his own bill because he wasn't president. And Donald Trump already allocated the money to these states. Go to peoplespunnitdaily.com right now and you can read all about it.
I mean, Joe Biden plagiarizes, so that's what he does.
I mean, but it's not
Trump
though,
did.
because
Yeah,
Trump
but
allocated it
the
to
money.
the schools.
But he's saying that this is why it's not safe. But he's going to say he did it. Mark my words. I'm telling
No.
you.
Oh, you mean he'll take apps? Oh,
Yeah.
that's going to happen. That's all right. I mean, he's been doing that since the beginning. I mean,
Since the beginning
the
of his
vaccination,
life. Since
distribution, right? It's just incredible. So I do feel too, we're in a lot of this data that comes in, right, is not really, we're just now in March. It's March 5th, right? And we're seeing these revisions to January and February. The problem we saw is that we did not see the seasonal boom that we get. We get these seasonal hiring numbers, then we see layoff. It's normal, right? We see retail sales, we see these seasonal numbers, and even things like manufacturer shipments, inventories, and orders. I'm worried, Laura, like a 1.6% gain in December is pathetic. That's the revision. And January's 2.6. So how much of that really kind of lagged over? It seemed like a lot of people were holding their or reserving their activity, their whatever, we're talking about, CapEx, whatever, hiring. They were reserving their activity to see how those like tumultuous 2 months went. And now that they've spent it, I feel like that's probably the reason for some of the rebound in some of these. And then later in the quarter, it's just going to fall off because of what they're telling us now, which is I have no more plans to do it in the future for this fiscal over the next 6 months, because a lot of these are short-term outlook, which is 6 months. So what do you intend to do over 6 months? And that the answer to that is nothing. So they were trying to get it in at the last minute. Why? Because the inauguration is in January. It's January 21st.
They wanted to pad it.
And so they're like, do it now. If this is the way it's going to be, do it now. And then the future is certainly, sadly, uncertain. It's like they held back in December to see what was going to happen. And
they're the cause of their own destruction anyway.
Oh, well, I mean, that's...
they're destroying businesses left and right.
Well, they did... Well, the COVID lockdown strategy destroyed.
About.
Yeah, that destroyed businesses.
And then you have no future plans.
Which by the way, I blame everyone for, because everybody got on board with that. Everybody got on board with that. There are a few people who were against it. Trump should have listened to his instincts from the jump. He should have listened to his instincts from the jump, because the low end of that projection without a lockdown anyway transpired. It was already coming up on 500,000 fatalities, right? Even with everything being marked as a COVID death. So the high end was 2.4. The low end was about where we are now. So the lockdown, even by Fauci's own recommendations, the lockdown did nothing. Mm-hmm. It did not. Well, it didn't do nothing. Well, it killed jobs. It ruined people's lives. Oh boy, this scandal on Cuomo is just getting worse and worse, isn't it? Boy. You know what?
Fry.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
This guy.
I call him the old man serial killer. Like he's an elderist.
It's democide.
Right?
It's the legitimate definition of democide, death by government. These people, those elderly, would not have died if not for a government policy. And we got now new evidence. By the way, the Daily Caller was way ahead of them. They pretend like they get this now and they're running with it. The Daily Caller reported that 15 days before your earliest correspondence. So Cuomo he knew earlier than people think. And I told everybody, this story was around since before the election. Mm-hmm. They chose not to report it. They chose not to prioritize your mother and your father, your grandmother and your grandfather. Whatever. They didn't matter to them more than electing Joe Biden the president. They had to protect this whole entire narrative. They did not care. The AP had a team of reporters on this story already. You're telling me the Daily Caller got it, but a team at the Associated Press could not? Get out of here. Come on.
Thank you.
Give me a break. There are editorial decisions made in newsrooms around the country every single day. And believe me, that was one of them. And I blame, again, I really do blame everybody pretty much across the board because they just fell for it hook, line, and sinker. There was never any evidence whatsoever.
I bet you the mob's upset that the government thought of COVID because it's like the best Ponzi scheme ever. I'm telling you.
It's never ending.
No,
it's never ending.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
And now you see the Wall Street Journal. That's another one Trump slammed. I didn't read it though, but that's another statement he released in the last couple of days. But they went after the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and now they're writing editorials now. The never-ending COVID scheme, basically. It was always a scheme. It was, what the hell are you talking about? There is nothing new that we're learning. The truth is you didn't have any information before. You made a panic policy decision. You didn't have the information. You had nothing to go on. Because never in the history of human civilization has any society, country, nation, community, whatever, engaged in that kind of a lockdown of commerce because of a virus. Mm-hmm. Quarantines are not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the forced closing of commerce using police power. We're not talking about locking down an apartment building because the people are infected. You didn't have a single thing, a single event in the history of the world that you could point to and say, this supports this policy. Here's some empirical evidence that supports this policy. You didn't have a single one. So you just used fear. You muted everybody's voice, the voice of reason. And now you want to pretend like there's some great revelation that is changing your mind. That's what happens when panic fades. That's what happens. Reason comes
the killer bees.
And but I mean, you tend to get a grip on your mania.
Yeah, no, because now it's old. Like for instance, when
it can't continue forever. Panic can't continue forever.
All right, we were in the store shopping. There was a woman on the deli counter. She was, I'd say, in her 70s, beautiful, young old lady.
Go ahead.
And she's wearing her mask, and she's looking at me, and I'm not wearing a mask, of course not. And she looked at me. She goes, "Yeah, I'm over it too, but my job requires me to wear it."
Yeah.
She goes, "But listen.
I heard that.
If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die when the good Lord tells me I'm gonna die. But this mask is ridiculous, and it's just, dude.
First of all, that's another thing. We don't look at this thing with David French today. I see Sean Davis from the Federalist, tit for tat with David French, and it's like, you can't love your neighbor enough. Right? You can't love if you don't wear a mask. You don't love your neighbor. Like, this is the kind of crap that we heard in the beginning of this thing. There is no evidence, peer-reviewed evidence, that this will stop the spread of anything. The mask mandates went into place, and infections continued at the same pace anyway. If masks had some effect, then how come Florida, which has an older population, how is it that Florida, with an older, aging population, had dealt with the crisis? I mean, it's not, because I was going to cite hospitalizations. I was going to cite death, by age. It doesn't matter. Across the board, they did a better job than California. Certainly did a better job than New York. Even Massachusetts was pretty strict. By the way, Connecticut, if you live in Connecticut, looks like you're about to be somewhat free again, because they're dropping almost everything. I saw that before. I was going to talk about it, but businesses, restaurants, they're basically calling an end. They're over it. They're over it.
Everybody's getting over it.
You can't. Trump said something that he really should have just continued to repeat over and over again. That you cannot let the cure be worse than the disease. You cannot let the cure be worse than the disease.
That was agreed.
It was never a question of public health versus economics. Exactly. It was always a question of public health versus health. Overall health. All kinds of health. All kinds of health. The health of your finances definitely has an impact on your physical health. Your mental health. I mean, this was a false choice to begin with. There's a well-established relationship
but this is the
between
thing.
Economic activity and public health. Well-established.
The thing is, they don't even believe it themselves. Fauci.
Oh, some of them. Well, those guys,
done.
I bet you doesn't.
You know what
I don't
I'm saying?
think Fauci does either. I don't.
Getting her hair done with no mask.
I mean, right. Their behavior says it all, right? So there's Fauci. Remember that Fauci off camera? He's like, "Are we done with the interview?" You remember that?
Yeah.
If somebody really believed the crap they were peddling, they would behave like that. But they don't believe it themselves. I don't think Fauci is. I think some people do believe it. I think some, especially people, not maybe like political leaders.
No, regular
people. Regular people have, a lot of them have been completely duped by those who don't believe it.
Yes.
Remember, don't wear a mask. Well, yes, the WHO was right off the bat almost said, don't, it's not really necessary. We don't know if it's transmitted by, if transmission is human to human contact, then everything reversed. So it went from being unnecessary to wear a mask to this thing being a novel spreader, and you got to wear a mask. And then at the time, Dr. Fauci and the Surgeon General at the time said it's not necessary. They said that because they didn't want to have a run on N95s, all right, which they didn't have enough of. So they lied to you out of necessity. Do you understand? If it's true that masks will help stop the spread, then there's no getting around this. If that's true, then they lied to you out of necessity for the state.
For themselves.
Mm-hmm. So how on earth could you take anything they say moving forward with any degree of credibility? And then Fauci went from, don't wear a mask, wear a mask. You have to wear a mask, now you need to wear 2 masks. Just crazy crap. Meanwhile, you could watch the guy giving interviews, and he'll pull his own damn mask off the minute he's off camera. When he's going to baseball games, he's not social distancing. He's not keeping his mask on his face at all times. This is a load of crap. I can't take it anymore. I just can't. So I got to tell you guys, I have to be honest. I have a confession to make. I don't wear a mask. I'm a healthy, adult male. I'm not obese, which is another thing I told Jack, message. He's like, look, why doesn't anybody talk about the relationship between these countries who have higher obesity rates? And then, they had a harder time with COVID? Because you're not allowed to talk about that. That would insinuate some degree of personal responsibility. And we just can't have that. We just can't have it. But I don't wear a mask because there's no empirical evidence yet. There is no consensus. That's a load of crap. People don't properly wear them anyway. It does. So there's myriad reasons why. And also, you don't know what the effects on various people are going to be from mask wearing. You don't know what it's going to be, guys. We already know people who have things like chronic asthma, chronic breathing issues, asthma, COPD.
Now,
that are
disclaimer, we're not saying don't wear a mask.
Yeah, I'm just saying
we're
choosing
saying
I
particularly don't. And that we both don't have underlying issues.
Yes.
And that's why we choose not to. And we keep our hands off our face, ears, out of our nose, not in your mouth.
Yeah.
And then when we come home, we wash our hands, and that's it.
Laura will tell you, I've always been a bit of a, I'm not a germaphobe.
You're OCD.
But I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to washing your hands, washing your face. I've always been like that. Like when this pandemic hit, and everybody's like, well, you gotta wash your hands all the time. I'm like, well, doesn't everybody wash their hands multiple times a day? The hell is this?
Well, listen, another disclaimer. Rich washes his hands entirely way too much.
That's probably true.
Okay? When he's thinking, if he's thinking numbers, all of a sudden Rich has to wash his hands.
That's true.
And so it's...
I don't know why. And my face sometimes. But the face thing is like a wake up thing too. When I'd be on. No, it's true. It is dead 100% true. When I wash my face sometimes, it's because I'm like snapping myself out of something. Like I'm tired, I'm getting slow or something. So I'll go and I'll wash my face, cold water, wake myself up. Even actually, this is the OCD part. I do it with hot first, just to wash it. And then I do it with cold to close the pores and wake myself up, right? But I've always like, why? What do you mean people don't wash their hands every day, like multiple times a day? I don't, Laura, that's something I think I got from my grandmother. I think it was my grandmother. I think my dad may have gotten it from my grandmother. She was like militant with that when I was a kid. You came in from the house, wash your hands, Richard. Wash your hands.
Well, we also grew up in the era. You wake up, you wash your face, you wash your hands.
You wash your face, you brush your teeth.
Hands.
Yes.
Yeah, well, obviously brush your teeth. But I'm
you
saying
go outside,
with the washing,
you come back in, you wash your hands, take your shoes off, you wash your hands. It's just the way I was raised, But we were also the generation of go out and play, right? When you were a kid, I know from where you come, New Yorkers know what I'm talking about. People from New Jersey who are an Exodus New Yorker, you know what I'm talking about. If you're in my generation or older, you played outside with other children.
Yeah, we played
outside in the dirt.
Right? That thing called dirt.
You weren't constantly like, hold on, Dad, I'm almost done with this video game. I was able to, I had a Nintendo, I had Atari, right? Atari. Yeah, I did. Cubert, baby. Okay.
Wait, now you're giving away our age. Stop it.
I'm dating myself.
Yes.
I love Cubert. And Nintendo did come out when I was a kid, but that was something like you treated yourself to on rainy days. Nintendo was not for a bright sunny day, right?
No.
That's what baseball is for.
Yeah. Kickball, street hockey, football, touch football.
Right.
We did it all. Manhunt. Come on.
Riding bikes.
Oh.
Whole family guy. I'm telling you, that was a family activity. Riding bike. So you went outside, you got dirty, you just came in and you washed your hands, you washed your face anyway. I don't know. So this is nothing new. Pandemic is nothing new. But I'm not going to wear a mask.
No.
Because we don't, just like I'm not going to jump. I don't understand these fake conservatives like fake French, okay? You're supposed to have a natural inherent distrust of authority, Mr. French. Mm-hmm. But you're not really a conservative and never were. So you don't have at the core what makes someone a conservative. Right? Which is this, I will confirm what you're telling me is true. instead of just blindly obeying, because that's for sheep. And by the way, liberals, you used to be liberal at one point. The true sense. Classically liberal. And you didn't either. All Americans used to know, inherently, government lies. And they lie a lot. And they get their friends in different areas, different sectors of society to lie to you too. So we will confirm. Don't give me a New York Times article. Don't give me a Washington Post story. Don't give me any crap like that. There is no real peer-reviewed evidence that COVID is somehow mitigated through the wearing of a mask. That does not exist yet. All right? And the data that's come out, you know what their excuse is for this?
Please
I'll see cute little anecdotes like, and it was our state he was taking a crack at, right? I was in North Carolina the other day and I didn't see anybody wearing a mask. Everybody wears a mask here. And we're in a pretty red area. I would say in general 85% probably to 90%. It's we have achieved universal mask wearing basically. We have achieved it. All right? And that excuse that a handful of people like me who aren't wearing it are to blame is ludicrous. Ludicrous. It's not even true if you were to go to Japan or another Asian country when they have these. It's not even true that they all wear, not everybody is constantly like, it's not a piece of their attire like a pair of pants. So this idea that you're going to reach 100% is nuts.
Do you think this was a test though? I think this is also
in some part. I think
to see
China.
How much,
yeah.
No, not China, but just the government alone to see how much people would
push back. How much they would take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I
because
think
this is unconstitutional.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that.
I give I give what's her name? Wolf. I give her credit. This is a left winger. Where does it say it in the Constitution? And all these rights will be suspended upon a very bad virus.
Oh, I love you.
I don't see it anywhere. These are people who dealt with the pox, Laura. Yellow fever, hay fever, deadly strains of the flu. I don't remember them saying, you know what? You can't trade that powder. No more tea.
Amen.
Oh my God. These are people who went ballistic over a 3% tax on their tea. Or something. It was like 3%, I think was the... By the way, today is the anniversary of the Boston Massacre, if I believe correctly. Is it not? Today is March 5th. Hold on. Yes! Today is the 251st anniversary of the Boston Massacre. On March 5th, 1770, colonists and the Redcoats got in a clash. And contrary to public or popular belief, it wasn't really a massacre, okay? That is propaganda, colonial propaganda by the colonists. But it wasn't like some massive killing spree. The show Sam Adams did not depict that correctly. All right, so it is true, however, that there were 5 civilians were killed. And I can actually tell you their names because I pulled this up. Crispus Attucks, who by the way is worth noting as well. Crispus Attucks was, I believe he was black and Native American. All right, but a patriot through and through. So the first American killed in the American Revolution, technically, if you want to call it that, because you could say Lexington and Concord were the first battles of the American Revolution. But the massacre was a key point that changed everything, including the opinion of John Adams later, because John Adams was a He loved the law. And he Ed Jefferson was more the philosopher, but he loved the law, and he would make what were legal, constitutional thought, not constitution as we think of it. They called it constitutional, like the social contract, right? He would make the constitutional legal arguments. Jefferson would make the natural law philosophical argument. Beautiful, of course. It's much more, it's sexier,
yes,
right, than the law. But Adams believed in British common law, and he really thought that if we were going to be better than those that we thought we were better, then everyone deserves a defense. And he was hated for defending the Redcoats at the trial after this. But anyway, just read them all. Crispus Attucks, all right? Samuel Gray, James Caldwell, Samuel Maverick, and Patrick Carr, which of course led to as they say, at Freedom Trail, led to the rallying of Bostonians against the crown and the evacuation of troops in Boston. They would not return until 1774. That's true. And the Quartering Act was a huge deal, but Adams, like Franklin, slowly began to realize in their pursuit the way they knew how. Franklin, the diplomat. Adams, the legal constitutional scholar, right? Jefferson, who was just always, he wasn't like Adams, and he didn't need convincing. Even Franklin was a loyalist until he got basically, what's the word I'm looking for? What did they do to him in the meeting? He was an ambassador. And of course, you probably all hear the stories when he was the ambassador in France, but he was also the ambassador to the crown. He was not only America's most famous,
but darling.
Citizen, subject, really subject at the time.
Yes.
But the most famous. So it wasn't just the most famous American. He was the most famous anybody. So they chose to send him because of his stature. And he walked in. He was called in by the Prime Minister and some of his top lieutenants in Parliament, and he was berated. That's the word I'm looking for. And berated badly, and spoken to, like we were talking about, as a second-class subject, not as a Britishman. And the colonists, even ones that turned out to be patriots, they viewed themselves to be British, to be British men, and they viewed them to be dirty colonialists. Yeah. And it wasn't until that meeting where he was just berated, even with his stature, that he realized they don't
where
look
America
at me.
Where America truly stood.
Yes, look. Why I'm bringing this up, and why I'm going into so much is there's a lot of parallels between what we see now and what we saw during the American Revolution. The American Revolution was very much a everyday layman revolution against elitism. That is, to its core, what it was. Monarchists versus laymen, and farmers, and tradesmen. That's what it was. This country was never supposed to be an elitist bastion. It was always the natural aristocracy. That's what they wanted, not the artificial. That's what Jefferson used to call them. Anyway, it all said that Franklin walked in that room a loyalist and walked out a patriot. Yeah. And that was it. And by the way, that decision ruined the relationship he had with his son. So when we talk about today, like how many Trump supporters know someone they lost in their family, very much like a modern day liberal, a loyalist like his son
would shun him.
Would destroy family relationships over political positions. And like I said, a lot of parallels to today, a lot, because that's what you brought it up the other day when we were talking about what are the odds. You and Barnes were saying they're monarchists.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what they are. They're monarch. They have monarchist tendencies all through them.
Well, the thing is that, what they have you do, the ones that are loyal, all right,
Actually, I could wait to take a sip of water until the break.
The ones that are loyal, they will sit there and have you peddle their junk. And then after you have sufficiently convinced them and the people that you believe the junk that they are peddling, then they lop off your head.
Yeah, so don't ever bend down in front of... That's what Robert and her were saying on Monday. Like, you can't ever bow in compliance, you know, like that, because they'll just take it as an opportunity to lop off your head. Like,
the axe is always
ready, it's always sharp, it's always ready to go, always, you know. But it's incredible how many parallels there are between what's going on now. It's just something that's different is that this is the role is like reversed now. It's the elites who are waging a revolution.
Yes.
Against the system that protected the everyday man and woman for so long.
Yes.
For more than 2 centuries.
But they're nervous to fire a shot, so they're trying to do it.
No, they don't need to.
Yeah, but I'm saying they've been waiting for this moment for a long time. They showed their skirts, all right, during Obama, but they showed it too soon. Their slip was shown.
That's why 16 was such a shock to them, because they thought they had the numbers already. And then they really did. Then
America bit them back. Yeah. Meaning you, the people, turned around and said, no,
we're going to elect somebody we want to elect. Yes. And we're going to go in a different direction than what you've been taking us in the 8 years. Teaching us to accept.
And
which was
now,
more than 8 years.
This is everybody being punished.
Yes,
for absolutely. How dare you go against the monarchy.
Yeah. But now they're going to take steps to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And these are the things that we warned you about.
That's what the impeachment of Donald Trump was all about.
It's like,
that was making an example of him and making sure that he could never run again. And then anybody like him would think twice before they decided to do the same thing, which is betray the elite. Like, this system, many would argue, was built for people like Donald Trump. All right? Absolutely. And he betrayed it. All right? And from that, I'll leave it there. We're going to take a quick break. All right? Maybe like 2 minutes, you know, something like that. And we'll be back after this. Don't forget to like the page People's Pundit Daily on Facebook if you're still a Facebook user. And don't forget to subscribe to People's Pundit Daily on YouTube. Hit that notification bell on YouTube, and that'll let you know when we're going to go live. If you like the video, we'd very much appreciate it. If you like it, hit that little like button, that thumbs up. If you don't like it, that's what America's all about. You can go ahead and hit the thumbs down. All right?
To each is their own.
To each is their own. All right? And I had some show announcements. We'll get back. We'll talk about where we are with the fundraising for the poll. We'll also talk about how it's going to get moved to the native thing on Big Data Poll. It should make it much, much easier for you guys. And then there was something I wanted to reiterate. If you had a problem on locals community people, if you had a glitch, it's not many, but one or two
we're dealing with.
Yeah, got charged multiple times. Something, it seems there's like a little bit of a bug. They said support@locals.com. If you want, if you want to contact us, we'll wind up forwarding it over to them anyway, but they will fix that. Okay, I just want to make sure that's in there. Any other show announcements I'm missing here?
I
mean, it's just for the break.
I don't have my phone with my schedule.
If I miss it.
But also, you can follow Rich at People's Pundit.
At People's Pundit. Yeah.
I said at People's
Pundit. Gitmo Life.
At Gitmo.life. And then you can also follow him, of course, on Twitter. You know,
and you can follow Laura at Laura Barris. Okay.
Not on Twitter. You can follow me on Gitmo.life, where I still have freedom of speech. All right. And we love that place. And plus, they don't track you. They're very open.
Yeah, this is why I haven't discussed Parler, because it does appear that they are treating your data a little bit differently now.
Yes.
And I don't really know the crux of it. So you'll notice I have not gone back onto Parler, even though I have like 200,000 followers there. I'm not going to do it until I know for sure. Mm-hmm. So, ironically, I haven't gotten any response yet. So we'll see. All right. Maybe though that's time to come back around and see. Maybe send another reminder. It's possible they got buried with everything. They were coming back. I'm sure they were very busy. Mm-hmm. Maybe they got buried and didn't see or it got lost in the sauce. All right. But if there's something else, we'll do it after the break. Yeah. All right. All right. We'll be back in about 2 minutes, folks. Hang tight. Okay. Hang tight.
like Parlor is glitchy.
30 seconds. All right, we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right, follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Follow me on Gitmo Life at People's Pundit. Don't forget to hit the notification bell if you subscribe on YouTube, so that will let you know when we're going to go live. And then also, if you're on Facebook, so mosey on over to Facebook. We'd very much appreciate a like over there. Many viewers on Facebook who shows us an invite. We want to send an invite. If you're watching on Facebook and you like the show, we'd appreciate it if you'd like the page. And what else? I think that's about it for now. Let's get into the polling. So I got a last minute question thing. Let's see, where are you? Hold on one second. I got a last minute question suggestion, which I liked. But generally, we're going to hit that third rail. We're going to talk about transgender. I see Rasmussen. We're going to talk about this too. Women under 40 do support, according to Rasmussen. However, I will say, in some private back and forths with them, the main pollster wasn't there for the press release. And basically, it's possible there's some statistical noise in there. All right. So the sampling error for that specific age group of women is pretty high. So that's the way it works. For subgroups, your sampling error is higher than it is for other groups. So I'm very curious to see what we're going to find. I am not really surprised, though, that there may be some like woke under 40 women who do support that. I mean, I wouldn't at all be surprised. My curiosity is with the demographic we were talking about before, specifically working moms or even stay-at-home moms who have school-age children that rely on these things for scholarships. So yeah, that's that. And then I guess I lost it here. I had a last minute thing, Laura, that I can't find now. But somebody had brought up another way to ask about the minimum wage. All right. And I may possibly do that. I got to be honest with you guys. I think that a majority probably does support hiking the minimum wage. I have to tell you, that's what my gut tells me. I don't know. But I will say this. I'll let the data speak to me, but I cannot foresee Joe Biden's approval rating anywhere near where some of these polls are. There are now two universes, like I told Steve Bannon this morning. Two universes. You have myself, you have the guys at Rasmussen, you have Spencer at Emerson. I mean, Spencer's got Joe Biden at 49%. All right? That's it.
That's believable.
That's believable.
Yes.
All right? And then you have the other universe where Joe Biden's approval rating is at 60 or better. I am now sadly convinced that they're doing something on purpose, which is... But there's two crises going on in this industry. The first one is a crisis of methodology. So we have a lot of flaws in different methodologies. It used to be people could not grasp what I've told you for years, which is that different groups of people respond to different polling modes at different rates. All right, data collection modes. So live caller, cell phone. Live caller, landline. Online panel. Interactive voice response, landline. These are different data collection modes. Two-way text messages, right? Text a link to an online panel. These are different data collection modes, depending on the kinds of groups of people, not just partisans, age groups, races, geographical differences, generational differences, ancestral differences, you name it. They will respond at different rates. And the people who are most likely to respond to these modes are they skew liberal. They skew certain kind of voter who's just dying to tell you all about their opinion.
You know, the pompous kind.
And then there are some who are, Laura, there are some who are high interest that are on the right. They will respond, but there's also tons of high interest voters and registered voters and even adults on the right who don't. They're going to vote, but they don't want to talk to you. They're skeptical. They don't they don't know who I am. We do say, whether it's online or on the phone, they get a prompt. I mean, hello, this is Big Data Poll. We're calling what a very important political survey. Participation is voluntary but vital. All right. Yeah. So we got a spiel. So, but they don't say, "Oh, that's Rich, the People's Pundit. I'll stick with this one." No, I mean, most people don't know that. They don't know. So it's damn pollster. They associate you with a media. They hang up or they click off the link. All right, and that's unfortunate. You guys got to stop doing that. All right, but that creates a response bias that is completely separate from social desirability bias and other cognitive biases. People are aware now of these issues in the industry. They're using the artifacts that are created from these biases. An artifact is a flaw in the methodology. They are using these to artificially inflate Joe Biden's numbers. There is no way that they don't know they're wrong. I will give you some examples. In Florida, the raw data was about 8 points to pro-Biden. In Wisconsin, the raw data was about 13 points to pro-Biden. I went back and looked at just the last round that we did. All right. In Minnesota, the raw data was 8 points, even though he won it by a large amount. 6 points to pro-Biden. My point is, if you take those results and you look at some of the media and university polls, you can see they fell prey to typical response biases and then, to a lesser extent, social desirability biases. At this point, there is no way that they don't know what happened. All right? And if they do not stop and retool themselves, then that is an intentional decision. Okay? And they're doing it because they are trying to help Joe Biden get his agenda through Congress. It is a radical, bold agenda. This bill alone isn't really an agenda item piece. It's a $2 trillion payback to all of Joe Biden's supporters. They need to get that through first because Joe Biden's owned. All right? And then after that, they want you to work on immigration. They want an amnesty. They want a minimum wage. They want all sorts of goodies for the left. And they need you to think Joe Biden's approval rating is 60% or more. So, or even high 50s. In this country, in this day and age, those are not real numbers. Those are artifacts of the polls. They know they're artifacts, and they're doing it on purpose. On purpose. And sample size doesn't even account for some of what I was saying before, guys, because you remember, if you remember, those of you who had been watching before the election, maybe you funded the public polling project, you watched the results being released of the public polling project, you listened to my analysis of those results. I told you maybe I would need just a little bit more in Southwest Wisconsin. You remember that? Me saying things like that? That is because you have to make sure everybody is represented. The raw data is almost useless at this point. It's very hard to infer. That's why even sometimes with me, I thought, Trump would be ahead by like 3 points, 3.5 points, or 5 points in Arizona. And when I would weight it turned out it was like a 2-point lead, right? Even though he wound up losing it by 6,000. They're getting an audit in Arizona. That is a real audit.
But that's why you always
but it's too
say
late.
You don't
it doesn't
like to
matter
look
anyway.
at raw data until
I don't. And that's why people are always like, how does it look, Rich? How does it look? I just wait. I don't. First, I'm superstitious. Laura will tell you. I'm superstitious as hell.
You think it's like looking at the light.
Yeah. And then also, it's more than that because it's about misrepresenting what's really going on. Maybe you think you're looking at the raw and you think you can infer something from it. But then there are these minute little details, guys. When I tell you we get granular and the weighting is granular, it is not simple as it used to be. Well, I'll break the state up into 3 different regions, and that doesn't work anymore. I mean, we are weighting at a very granular level, and that's how we were able to see what we saw that others did not. All right. And then also, let's talk about where we are with the funding. When I tell you we're about 1/5 the bare bones, I really wanted, if it's a national poll, I really want 2,000 responses. And I'm not talking about 2,000 total responses, guys. I'm talking about 2,000 after we hit all those targets and quotas and everything is weighted properly. That really means I have to collect more because we're going to oversample certain groups. Some groups are going to be on accident. They just like to participate. I get plenty of these groups of people. They're like 9% of the electorate and they want to be 20% of the raw data. It happens all the time and we have to account for that. So it's going to be a higher amount. Right now, let me just make sure.
Michigan like that when we had it?
Michigan?
Yeah.
Very
Or was it
much.
Minnesota? Michigan, right?
Michigan,
Yeah.
Wisconsin's a pain.
It's interesting.
Wisconsin is a pain. You cannot reach people in the northwest and the southwest. They are pains. They just don't like it. No. Well, they're not pains. They just don't like to poll that much. I will give like Marquette, who blew it again, I will give them at least credit for releasing where they got these responses. And then you could clearly see like the working class was going to be a larger vote for Trump. And it was, than they predicted, because working class in the suburbs of Milwaukee are not the same as working class in Polk or Rusk counties. They're not. And the trick is, guys, what throws them off, even when you start to reach people in those areas, guess who you're going to reach first? Just guess. Right? And so you may get duped like Nate Cohen got duped. Oh, Joe Biden's going to flip Greene County, Pennsylvania. I mean,
and I'm the Dalai Lama.
He made a total fool of himself. Robert put it best because I was trying to explain it.
Yes.
He was like, yeah, sure, because all you did was talk to the librarian and school teacher. That's true, because that's who was going to take the damn survey first. The guy who just got off the line, or the welder who just got off, he's not going to come home and take a freaking survey. He's not going to pick up his cell phone, Nate, and take a survey. All right, it's just not going to happen. How many people in Micanopy, Florida are going to pick up the phone after working all day, right? I mean, this is crazy. You get out and see the world sometime. God, do yourselves a favor. All right, let's take a look at Venmo first, because I'm telling you, we're like $500 in each. It's not we're not close yet. But I don't care if it doesn't raise like it did during the election, because if it's a monthly poll, you piece of crap. It wants to send me a thing. If it's a monthly poll, because I did it on my
smooth operator.
Yeah, you know what though? I could just look on my app on my phone. If it's a monthly poll, then we have more time. It's actually even less than that. And Venmo is about I have to send these to Robert too because he can help push it out.
Push it out, yep.
But I was waiting because I wanted to get it on. So between Venmo and PayPal, we're looking at like $800, 7 and change. Okay. So we're not even, if I do it for bare bones, we're not even close. So that's why I want to. Yeah, Laura will say it and be honest. That's why I want to put up this thing though. You can go to Venmo.com/People's Pundit right now. You can go to PayPal.me/People's Pundit right now and give. What I'm going to do is when this give board goes up, because that's what it's called, give board, right? When it goes up, you're gonna see 2 donations. One is going to be like Venmo community, and the other one's going to be PayPal community. And those are going to be the totals from what's in PayPal and Venmo right now. And that'll be on the board. But I also like it because you'll see a progress bar to the point where we're almost there. All right? It'll show you how far we have to go, or how this way too people don't overgive. This is another, because I was struggling last time to allocate, like Florida came in a little bit under, right? And then Pennsylvania came in a little bit more. And so I moved whatever was remaining from Pennsylvania into Wisconsin or Michigan or something. That's a pain. When we hit it, it's closed, it's done, and we move on. Or it moves to the next month.
Yeah.
And we could start funding the next month, get a jump on the next month. That would be cool. All right. This way I don't have to go through the nightmare paperwork that I went through last time.
Somebody said, though, that they're surprised people answer calls from unrecognized phone numbers. They don't. Normally.
Yeah, they don't.
But that's why we have to use so many people.
So it's a numbers game, right? So that's why I also call BS, guys, on excuse me. I also call BS on some of the polls that I'll look and I'll see, and they'll say, we pulled a list of 10,000 and we reached 400. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Stop lying.
10%, if you're lucky, will pick up the phone. If you're lucky. Out of that, maybe 10% will give the interview. So you're looking at like a 1% response rate now. I'm not even kidding. Because they'll take the entire interview. It is a numbers game. If I want 1,000 responses, solid, I pull a list. So maybe it's a little bit more than a percent, you know. But I pull a list, usually we'll start with around 75, and if I have to go back and take the other 25, I will. So about 100,000, boom, right off the bat. Now, we're mixed mode, so like Florida, to hit the target in Florida, I pulled 50 to 75,000, and that was the phone component. And then we would do the online components. All right. But some of them overlap too. You got to make sure. That's what's great about having vendors to communicate. So you can do dupe, it's called, where maybe you
have enough from.
Yeah. Once he's marked, or he or she is marked as responded, completed, then the other mode won't try to contact, because I'm a pain in the butt. If you don't pick up the phone, I'm gonna email you. Yeah, like, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna look, when I tell you I prod and nod and nudge and nudge and nudge. That is what it takes to get a working class American in this country to take a damn survey.
Well, because they have better things to do: cook dinner,
Yeah.
eat with their family.
But just put it this way: when you come home at the end of your very hard day, and you were just want to put up your feet, like Laura said to me, want to eat with your family. Maybe after that, you guys turn on your favorite show. Do you want to talk to me, or do you want to watch your favorite show? I mean, right?
Seriously.
Are you going to interrupt your dinner and let your food get cold to talk to me? I don't think so.
No.
And this is what people don't understand. Now, you have a lot of Zoomers who have a lot of time on their hands. They are blowing up the panels with participations, right? They're the first ones to take it. You have to quota them out. You have to quota them out. Meaning, immediately try to identify who they are and then say, I got enough. Sorry, but you are not qualified to take this survey. We no longer need participate, because pretending we are still relying on randomization is a lie. There is no random sample anymore, really. The era of random digital dial is over. The minute you go to a voter file, you're killing randomization. Or at least you have to do something else to compensate for it. And I'm not going to give away stuff. I'm just not going to give away what we do. But to pretend like you're pulling, you're doing, if you're targeting registered voters, you're killing randomization. I'm sorry, that's just how it goes. The only way you could do it is random and digital dial of adults. It's the only way to truly reach randomization. Even, I love Amerispeak, where they're like, we're a probability design panel. Yeah, okay, but they're still opted in to take that poll. Then you now require a confidence interval. You cannot really give a margin of error. In truth, it is not appropriate at all. The way most people, most firms, most outlets hire people to conduct them, the way they're conducted, in truth, almost nobody can claim calculated a margin of error. It's different than a sampling error, which is really the proper term to use at this point. Even still, some others can't even give a sampling. They really should be giving confidence intervals. Like, I have to praise them for it. Like the LA Times. The USC Anador or whatever, which came from the RAND, right, corporation, RAND survey. That is the correct. You have to give a confidence interval. That is the correct way. Here's my gray band. Either one can fall within that gray line. That's the difference between a sampling error and a confidence interval. Okay? A margin of error and a confidence interval. All right, where you shouldn't take a confidence interval as a specific number and then give or take 3 points. That's not true. You should think of it more as a range in both directions, if I'm saying that correctly. I know I'm trying to say, if I'm saying it, it makes sense. All right, I know Laura's looking at me with that look of questions on her face, and I know she can hear my voice starting to get hoarse, so she's already giving me the do this eye. All right. All right, so
it is Freewheeling Friday.
The first question I'm going to take, which is locals and it's pertinent. You can give to Venmo now or PayPal now because I'm just going to put it into that campaign and you're going to see it on the board. And then the second part of your question is, it's going on Big Data Poll. Laura and I were talking about this. It belongs on Big Data Poll. I don't think it belongs on People's Pundit Daily, right?
No, because PPD hires BDP.
Yeah, that's the way you should think of it.
To do the polling.
They're different corporations.
I don't want it to get mixed up because then we're going to have auditing issues.
Yeah, they're different. Look, and I'm very comfortable saying this. There's an umbrella corporation. It's not an umbrella. Think of it like an umbrella. It's an LLC. And it owns PPD and it owns Big Data Poll. But they are separate.
Yes.
And I feel like it's not correct to, even though PPD is technically the sponsor of Inside the Numbers, I think it should be because you're giving. You're not. It's like a campaign fundraiser. You know, that should be done directly to that entity. That's what I personally think. Otherwise, it's like you're hiring PPD, who then pays out at a premium to Big Data Poll, because any media company hires a firm to pay. They don't do it for free, guys. No. They pay it at a premium. So we're not doing that with you. So that means it should go directly to Big Data Poll to do as kind of like a essentially pro bono thing, which will help us anyway, because it's going to draw attention to Big Data Poll like it did last time. We get paid because we have people who say, damn, that was accurate. How much can I hire you? And they don't get your price.
No.
So, yeah.
Sorry, but not sorry.
No.
That's why that's why he's called the People's Pundit.
Right. Not the campaign pundit.
No, not the giveaway pundit.
Not the giveaway pundit.
All right.
Yeah.
But
all right, what's some questions? Let's get some questions here.
Questions. All right. How can national polls matter in relation to elections when we vote by state?
That's a great question. I have for long believed that national polls would stop being important for the process of predicting presidential winners. All right. That is essentially an election of 50 individual states. It used to be, many years ago, it used to be that national polling was a leading indicator of state movement. That's no longer true because of demographic changes. Not just because, the country's gotten more Hispanic or the country's gotten more Asian. That's not what I'm talking about. States didn't differ that much demographically from each other like they do now. You have Iowa and Michigan and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You have these 80+% white states. And then you have other states like California, which are not a minority now. And then you have majority. And so we flip things on its head, and we have these large disparities between different states in the Electoral College. The white working class are overrepresented in the Electoral College, and I would actually say the working class is overrepresented. You have too many groups in too many different states that simply don't mirror, and the idea of a microcosm even is going away. Like Florida. It was a microcosm of the country. Well, Donald Trump won Florida by the largest margin we've seen in 16 years. And yet, the nation still went +4. Why I still say, though, it matters, honestly, for something like what we're doing, is because nationally you can tell where his approval rating is coming from. You can tell regionally where his national approval rating is coming from. And then also it matters because Congress is still a national body of government. And if we're polling issues, we could, later on say, what do voters in Michigan think about this? Or what do voters in Pennsylvania think about this? But we'll extrapolate that from the demographic data we get from, nationally over time. But the bottom line is there's, sadly, that disparity is going to grow. And it's going to get more confusing. It's going to get worse. So the Electoral College model gave Donald Trump an 85% chance of winning if he lost the popular vote by 4 points. And yet he did and still lost, which is another anomaly. But the bottom line, but the bottom line is they at least recognize 4 years ago that was 2 to 3 points. So it's widening. And when the census is done, the delayed census, when that's done and we get new census data, I think you're all going to see that it's worse than people even thought. And it's going to continue to grow. Why? Because we had some big states go in totally different directions than the rest of the country. And it changed the way they don't represent the rest of the country anymore. They just don't. We have coastal areas, very populated, that look totally different from the middle, geographically, the vast majority of the country.
Okay, what do you...
That was a great question, though.
Yes, of course. What do you and Rich think about Newsom doubling down on the lockdowns and about the... What's it called? Eviction. Eviction.
Well, I see
Recall.
Yeah, so I think that it's less a double down and more of a double speak. All right, so yeah, he did mock, Texas and others, but at the same time, what did he do? Right? He still opened up. He loosened the restrictions. So he's being a politician. He wants to pretend like he's being responsible, but at the same time, doing things that he himself would have called irresponsible a month ago. But he has no choice because, speaking of the recall, to answer the second part of that, he's in deep doo-doo, man. He's in deep trouble. And I mean that seriously. It's California. It's very hard for a Republican to win. But I have to tell you, I am met with a few people. And one of them would be shocking if he ran against Gavin Newsom. And sometimes big names can really mitigate the
it's like a
disadvantage of party dominance. So a disadvantage of going against a candidate who has party dominance in a state. So, think Schwarzenegger, Gray Davis kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then also we're seeing this massive shift, guys. I cannot stress this enough. This massive shift of working Hispanics away from Democrats. I don't know if it's going to be permanent or not, but what I'm saying to you is they are sending a very clear message to anyone who has got the brains to listen that they are not like black voters, and they are not even now like Asian voters. You cannot count on us to be monolithic. If you hurt us, we will hurt you back. If you look at Cuomo's approval ratings, we went over them. Look at how many percentage told Spencer that they would vote for him to reelect him. That looks a lot like Gavin Newsom. And you know what? If you give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you exactly where Gavin Newsom is with Hispanic voters. It's worth it. Give me 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's not good. It's bad. And oh my God, I got another 400 responses. I totally forgot about them. I saw them yesterday. I was like, oh, look at that. Because it was like moving kind of a little bit slow, and then it just kind of poured in. And I was stunned. Stunned. First of all, it is March 5th. They have a very important thing going on over there. Come on, let's go. Open up. It was bad. And the intensity index was terrible. All right, here we go. Newsom's approval. About 17% of Hispanics strongly approved of Gavin Newsom when we asked. About 30% somewhat approved. 25% somewhat disapproved. And another 20% strongly disapproved. Guys, this is California. That is not normal. His strongest, like we saw with Andrew Cuomo, because California Hispanics are more liberal than New York Hispanics. It's crazy, I know. But Black and Asian voters are the only ones staying with him by majority, basically. And because I overestimated, he actually is just below 50 with Hispanic and Latino voters. And Black voters and Asian voters are his strongest supporting group. Asians are, they're pretty strong. 22% strongly approve, 39 somewhat approve. So Asian voters are his strongest allies. Whites, 10% strongly approved. White, not Hispanic. Okay? Important distinction. So 10% strongly approved and 31% somewhat approved. And he's underwater. He's at 45, 55 disapprove. 56 if you round up. All right. So, that's trouble. That's big time trouble. And we're if this continues, then we're going to see Republicans are going to have to make a decision. Because this group of people, they are a fast-growing group. It's a good place to be. I told Bannon this morning. It's not a bad place to be if you're a party that's, still made up of the largest racial group, whites. You're predominantly, you win the majority of the majority. Mm-hmm. But then you're now becoming the party for the fastest growing demographic. Maybe, sucks to look at the last November, but 4 Novembers from now may look a lot different. That is not a bad place to be. The question is whether or not Republicans are smart enough to first embrace these people and secondly hold on to them. And without a Trump-like populist figure, because this is populism. Their home is the Republican Party, if you think about it from like conservative and family values, but they really do support a lot of social programs, social welfare programs, social services. So it's more than just conservative. Like a typical conservative would not do it. And didn't. In fact, didn't. They are populists. And conservative populists, whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. And that's what, for years in this country, there was only one party that welcomed any kind of populist viewpoint, and that was the left. Now, left-wing populism is crazy if you're a right-wing populist. But if you're just, you have populist tendencies, and the right isn't offering you anything, what sounds better? Mitt Romney or somebody who's got like a Bernie, kind of philosophy? Working people shouldn't have to suffer. It shouldn't be so hard while everybody else is so damn rich. Doesn't mean they're ideological. They believe in fairness. And I know some people hate that word, but they believe in fairness. By the way, Donald Trump used the hell out of that word. Mm-hmm. That word won him the Republican primary in 2016. Fair, free and fair trade. It's not fair to have this situation with the debates. It's not fair that I'm treated like this by this news organization. He used the hell out of it. Right? All right, so
next. Tom, I'm sorry if I butcher your name. I'm going to say Forsyth.
Whoops.
Will Biden ever give State of the Union, or will he be gone?
Let me get 1 second here.
Oh, sorry. And then while you're doing that, what's the honest public opinion on Fauci?
I don't know yet. We're gonna find that out probably.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
I know. Me.
Need a drink of water, a puff, and a squirrel throat. I know I put the thing up.
You
but
didn't do
I
that.
did. Yes, I did. I know, pariah, right?
You booger. I'm just gonna call you.
That's what happens when you give me control of the deck, baby.
I know. Give me back my deck.
Gotta take the deck back. This
smack
deck
you.
is so cool. You guys want to see what it does? Watch this. Goodbye. Isn't that cool?
See what happens when I let him play with my toys?
All right. Laura's deck is awesome. Anyway,
Touchy. You remember you pushed the button on the camera and you looked like you were dying of gangrene. Remember, you're not allowed to push buttons.
Listen, I don't know what they're going to do with the State of the Union. It's very clear that Joe Biden has dementia and is not up for the job, all right? I mean, he's being handled. I think Ron Klain is probably the president right now, or, Kamala Harris deals with most foreign leaders. Ron Klain deals with most foreign domestic policy. The guy is, look, I'm not going to play this game. I don't care who says what or who does what to me, all right? The guy is not, he is not up for it. He can't even speak correctly. He even blabbered the other day that being president is tougher than he thought, and that basically he feels like he's been president for 2 terms already. It's not even 2. It's been 2 months. It feels like 2 terms. Oh my God. Well, then go to bed, man. Go to bed. You should have told the country that you were an invalid. I mean, this is crazy. We haven't seen someone lie about their health in the White House this badly since the White House hid from the American people that Franklin Delano Roosevelt was paralyzed from polio. I mean, Laura's laughing, but I'm serious.
Yeah.
We haven't had the American people misled this bad. Don't give me this crap that because of COVID you can't have a State of the Union. They're in Congress every day, standing and sitting next to each other. Folks, stop believing the BS. The guy is signing executive orders. He has no idea what the hell they say. He couldn't even say milestone last week.
Millstone. He's going to
No,
Millstone.
Millstone's where I got married, Joe. Millstone, New Jersey. Not Milestone. Oh my God. Who cares? I mean, this is crazy. This is nuts. I don't know what they're going to do. Because when he was doing the campaign, guys, he could sit in his basement, take whatever boosters they needed to give him so he could squeak by a 20-minute convention speech. By the way, that convention speech was among the shortest in the history of presidential elections. All right? His inaugural address was, despite Chris Wallace peeing himself over it, it was nothing. It was nothing burger. But that's over now. They can't just keep him in the basement, shoot him with the booster, and prepare him over a 2-week period for a 20-minute speech to the public. He has to actually be in the Oval Office. And it's very obvious that he's not really up for this. So I sadly...
Well, you got to put a lid on it at 5 p.m. because it's nap time.
Sadly, don't for all those people who crowed about the Donald Trump destroying the norms, don't be surprised if that's the next norm to go. In the name of COVID.
Got to put a lid on it.
Kidding me.
Nap time. I mean, he is a toddler
in the name
essence.
of COVID. Laura, he could give a State of the Union from the Oval Office then.
He can't say milestone.
This is
you
such
think
a
the man
load
is
of
gonna
crap.
Be able to, They're protecting
No kidding.
their arses.
And the idea, if it really was truly the pandemic, then they could do a 3-way Zoom. They really wanted to be Zoom losers. They could do a 3-way Zoom with Nancy, the vice president, and with Kamala, and with Joe. And they could do it, Joe up here, Nancy here, and Kamala here, just like it is when you're staring at the chamber, right? You got Joe in the middle, you got the president at the top in the middle, and you got the speaker sitting behind him on his right, but your left if you're the viewer, and you have the vice president on the viewer's right, his left. They could do it in a Zoom capacity. That's not what's going on here. He is not capable. Anyway, moving on.
Tim. All right. Medicare, Social Security. Any new funding, taxes, and COVID bill? Are the Medicare SS funds still going to run negative in Biden administration?
Yeah, sadly, that's a really good question. And actually, sadly, there are some bailout funds for states who have, for the state Medicaid funds. Basically, there is some money to, which was what Donald Trump said would happen, by the way, that this would turn into not a COVID bill, but a bailout for mismanaged budgets for many, many years. There is money for that. However, it's still going to run extremely negative. I mean, the idea that we're going to pack yet another $2 trillion, I got to be honest with you, I didn't even support the first $2 trillion that Donald Trump signed. I mean, we don't have the money for that crap, guys. I mean, we just don't. And of course, it was not all COVID related. There is not enough money to fund those programs. So eventually, this is all, the only way to fix that is to grow out of it. And we're not going to grow out of it at this rate. We needed Donald Trump's policies to continue. If they touch those if they touch the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act,
it's going to be a big problem.
It's going to be huge, because they're already going to do the regulatory stuff, and that we didn't realize how badly that did hurt the economy until Trump removed them using the GAOs. Forgot what the acronym for a process, but that alone,
I think it's the
that alone shot capex to the, in many sectors. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be negative in Joe Biden's administration. There's no doubt. They don't have the money to fully fund that stuff. They just don't.
Science Unbiased said, did you see the article circa 1918 riots over masks during the Spanish flu? Studies claim the mask killed more people than the influenza did.
Yeah.
Can cause lung infection, pneumonia, etc.
Yeah, I did see that. And this is what I'm talking about. I did see that. I think it was Jordan who put something up about it. This is what I'm talking about. So it's not really a consensus when you mute other viewpoints, you bury certain histories, and nothing is peer reviewed by a diverse, broad. That's a fake consensus. That is a fake consensus. That is about as real of a consensus as Nate Silver's polling average. All right? I mean, it's garbage.
Oh, sorry. I didn't expect you to finish so quickly. All right.
We just don't know yet. That's the sad truth.
If H.R. 1 fails, will that prove the Georgia Senate didn't matter? Georgia needs to fix its stupid elections, and their governor did everything he could to help the Democrats.
Yeah, I think Trump is 100% right about what he said in that statement bashing Karl Rove. They ran bad. Look, Georgia's not lost to Republicans. That's ridiculous. You go back to the typical way that we conduct elections, and yes, it will probably get more Democratic over time because, that's population. You'll see it when the census comes out, man. The Atlanta metro area is among the fastest growing metro areas in the country. That's just going to happen. However, Republicans lost those Senate races. Democrats did not win them. Republicans lost them. There's a difference. When you can't get 500,000 of your people to the polls, you lost a race. All right, David Perdue lost by nothing. Even Loeffler, with the the missing Republican vote, even Loeffler would have won. That margin, what was it in the end? 20 or 30,000. That was not enough. If the Trump vote came out,
nope,
not even close. They would have got swamped. Perdue would have been like a 4 or 5 point win. Loeffler would have been. No, he would have been more than that, actually. Yes. That was a 6 to 7 point win if you add those Trump voters. And Loeffler would have been like a 3, Loeffler, whatever they say.
Whatever.
But if H.R. 1 doesn't pass,
yes, that's what I was trying to get.
You don't want H.R. 1 to pass if you care about election integrity. You do not want the federal government meddling in state affairs. This problem has to be solved through state legislatures. Absolutely. And you'll see some of these rhino Republicans start to make moves on this stuff. We have already gotten calls about, well, how would we tailor this bill? What exactly happened? We already are. Why? Because they didn't care about Donald Trump, but they are taking to heart that whole idea: Trump today, you tomorrow, and now they get it. Like Brian Kemp is seriously wondering how he could possibly win re-election. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And even Midwestern states, sadly.
Okay, can you ask Rich who can win governor of Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania doesn't have.
These questions.
No, that's a good question.
It is.
We don't know that yet. Pennsylvania's bench is not deep, man. It's not deep. Trust me, working on it. It's not deep.
It's slim pickings.
Man, I wish something interesting would happen. Like Don Jr. would go live there for 6 months.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
well, do what Brazil was. It Donna Brazil who said everybody moved to Georgia? No,
that was Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams.
But I'm saying if Don Jr. made residence in a Midwestern state, he would probably win a governorship. I think that's Wisconsin.
What about Sean
would be another
Cornell?
one. Sean can't win his district.
Yep.
You want the truth of it? Sean can't win his district. Can't expect him to win his state.
Nope.
He did better than most of the tiny crystal balls thought he would do, but you gotta win. You gotta have some. Well, then again, Ossoff lost his district. Mm-hmm. He wound up winning the Senate.
That's true.
So sometimes losing.
There
doesn't
are
really work.
rarities.
Pennsylvania is an anti-war state, mm-hmm. and let's face it, we don't know how he is on those issues. And I know a lot of people go America first, but let the CIA drop a fake not a fake one. Yeah. Let the CIA drop a canister of chemical weapons and blame it on Assad, and we'll see where he goes.
Yeah. Do you think Patriots will get this country back from the elites?
Oh man, that's a loaded question.
So
I don't like to give my personal opinion about stuff like that, but
it depends who stands up.
It depends, guys. It really does. If
everybody watches on the sidelines,
we have no historical precedent for a top-down revolution of a Republican system of government, because that's what this is. Mm-hmm. This is something totally new. I don't know the answer to that yet. Right now, it's grave. Mm-hmm. The state of liberty, the prospect for liberty for your children and grandchildren it's a grave period. I mean, it's dire. It's dire.
Who are possible runners for California governor race?
You really said that out loud.
Hey, they want to know.
You know the message I just got.
I know. Hey, listen. We can't tell you yet. All right?
Yeah, we can't tell you.
We
yet.
have a few calls to make.
We can't
and
tell
then we'll
you
talk
yet.
to you.
Yeah, we just can't do that because you don't want to. You believe us. You don't want to scare someone out if they're if there's a good candidate. You don't want to, and I know that. You don't want me to scare them out of the process, right?
We got somebody in mind.
Although I will say it again, because he's not somebody who gets afraid, mm-hmm. right? Joey, run for governor in Nevada.
Let's go, Joey. All right?
Joey, I'm telling you, Joey Gilbert, I'm telling you, Joey Gilbert could win the governorship
all day.
If
all day.
Done properly, he's a smart guy, he's a fighter. Joey, run for governor. All right. If somebody doesn't win the governorship, there is no way to fix the election integrity issues, and through the state. Mm-hmm. And I think that the time, think about it. If you're going to do it, you have to do it during a midterm. Mm-hmm. All right, and you have to do it in a time period. Nevada is in deep trouble economically. All right. I was just in Vegas. It is completely depressed. I don't know how much more that city can survive. And there are a lot of people who would otherwise vote Democrat, no problem, not supporting their own demise anymore. Okay? In their lockdown haste, they weaken their own political strength, which is culinary and, services unions, mm-hmm. right? They weaken them with these lockdowns by hurting the industry. tourism industry and the gambling industry.
Yeah.
They hurt their own political power. So the only thing they can rely on is corrupt government, right? And because that's what they're doing.
Obviously, to line their pockets.
The Reed machine is already fading, and then you added the lockdown on top of that. Put a midterm in there, and the right candidate,
like Joey,
and he could probably carry this is why, guys. No Republican can flip that state unless they win back Washoe County. Mm-hmm. He's like a rock star celebrity in Washoe County. Everybody knows him, and the best part about it is he's been ahead of the curve on this lockdown nonsense, and there have been Democratic groups asking him to run. Democratic groups, Democratic people asking him to run because he has been on the right side fighting to end lockdowns that are hurting different groups of people that Republicans would never stand up for, and he has. And you take Washoe by 3 or 5 points and keep yourself in the mid-40s in Clark County, it's over. Yeah. And then also he's gonna kill it in rural Nevada. He's gonna kill it in Douglas. He's gonna kill it. And listen, run for governor, Joey.
Joey, just think about it. If you're sitting on your couch and you're watching some watered-down Republican run, and he loses by a point or two, you're going to be like, oh.
You're going to be watching on election night, okay? And you're going to say, damn, I could have gotten 3 more points. I could have gotten 3 more. Yeah, you could have. You could have gotten it out of Washoe County. But now you got to suffer under that Democrat. Yeah, and now you got to suffer under that Democrat because of that. Also.
No pressure.
No pressure. And then also, I've seen the billboard effect before. All right? It's like somebody who's very well known because their face is everywhere. I've seen that transcend party loyalty in the past. I have seen it. And with shockingly high numbers of crossover votes because you just think of that person as that person that you've always known. You don't think of him as a Republican or a Democrat or whatever.
Because he's the boy next door.
He's just him.
He's in your neighborhood.
It's just Joey. Talking about it, he's not somebody he's not trying to kill me.
Nope.
That's Joey.
Yeah, Joey.
It works, Joey. Yeah. I'm telling you, it works.
Good times. You got this, Joey. But no pressure.
It's 2:02. It's 2:02. No. It's 2:02.
You gotta explain this. That's good.
All right. Hit me with that one. But I got
I know.
Button up against it.
I am so confused about margin of error versus confidence interval.
Okay. I'm going to make videos on this. Can we do one this weekend, maybe?
Okay. So
Can we do this? Listen. Okay. Because, first and foremost, and this is why I haven't done the videos yet, because I'm trying to figure out the simplest way to explain it. Simply doing the equation is going to confuse the hell out of you. But I can show you the math and the equation on the screen. It won't tell you the difference. Because somebody opts in, and it's not random, you cannot have a margin of error. All right. And most online panels, when all is said and done, are opt-in panels. So they really should be, many of them, should be providing a confidence interval. And what a confidence interval says is, let's say we did this in 2016 for our track, because it should have been a confidence interval. Trump 45, Clinton 43. And then there you will see the confidence interval for each candidate, all right? What it really means is not that I'm going to be wrong plus or minus 3%. It can fall within different regions of that confidence interval. It could come in, all right? That share of their vote support could come in anywhere near it. A margin of error is a static number in either direction. A confidence interval could sometimes be a little bit higher on one end, lower on another, but in the end, you need to think about it as the vote will come in between these two places, whereas the other one is, this is it, and it will be plus or minus either way. It's different. It may sound the same, but it's not. It's different. It really means they'll fall in within these ranges. That's a confidence interval. It'll be somewhere, no higher than here, no lower than there. But that doesn't necessarily mean plus or minus 3, plus or minus 3.5. All right, that's a more static figure. All right, and we really have to start doing this.
If we're gonna do a clip
like
this
a whole
weekend,
series on it. I'm serious.
But then we'll start.
What are different data collection modes?
Yeah,
What are
yeah.
what are sampling
get it.
errors? Yeah.
But I also have like 25 more questions that you will open with before you go into that.
Well, no, I mean like tiny little series that just answer those questions. Not a whole lot of questions.
No, I'm saying
Maybe we'll do a Q&A this weekend or something.
We'll do a mini video. No,
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we'll do a Q&A. But I'm saying what I was talking about with the confidence intervals.
Baby, I got you.
That's separate. I want a series up on the YouTube everywhere.
And then we have to do
that
a reading
says,
series.
I want to add that to the show itself. Like the last 10 minutes of the show.
Books
Like,
with
or not
Richie?
even. It doesn't even have to be. It could be like a minute. Book of the day, you know, where I go, just for today, the longer we stay clean, the steeper and narrower our path seems to become. You know, whatever. Make a quote or what, you know.
Something
Of course.
historical.
Prescient, you know, yeah. Related to what's going on. Yes. I get it. And every day it'll be from my book. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you wish.
But that's what other people do. That's not what I'm talking about doing.
Isn't that sad that people do that?
Well, I mean, I don't mind the idea
No,
of reading
by
your
the
own,
way,
but, yeah.
your book is great. FYI, people.
It's heavy. It's not for people who like to pick up books of media figures and read. It's a theory book. It is. I'm just telling people.
He's such an annoying, modest person, isn't he? All right, the book is a great
theory.
read.
And basically trying to prove that the relationship between virtue and freedom was important to the founders. They saw it. They understood it. It's actually you could drum it down to an equation. The more virtue a society has, collective virtue, the less they need government. They don't need government to fill these roles that we now allow it to fill. And meaning to say we are less virtuous than we used to be. Would anybody seriously argue with that? Like, when was the last Great Awakening? All right. But the point is that now, once churches and communities, autonomous communities, used to handle certain things that we now leave up to social services. Well, the price for that is a larger government, because the government has to do it if you're not going to do it. And that is ultimately the goal. And to explain the difference, because I think people forget, we allowed Europe to adopt the term citizen, which kills some of what the other argument, it dilutes it, because there are no citizens in Europe. Hell, we're not even citizens right now. They're New World subjects or New Age subjects, and we're becoming New World subjects, or have already started to become. A citizen is multi-layered. You don't have a monastic relationship. You don't have a monarchist relationship with government. It is not your father or your mother. It does not give you your rights, but at the same time, you are a citizen and you have a duty. It is a two-way street. You can't just sit back and say, no, that's unalienable. That you have a duty for each right that you have. And the founders understood that. And we take it for granted. And we forgot what it means to be a citizen. Mm-hmm. And you know what?
A true citizen.
I'll read that over the weekend.
There you go.
All right.
Somebody said we should do a fundraiser Q&A, but I don't know how that works, because isn't that kind of like...
Well, what I would be afraid of is like...
it being Biden-esque.
You know, here I just gave $20, put my question in. Like, I'm a little bit worried about that.
I don't like that. I mean?
But if I would do it, I would do it if it went under the impression you're not buying a question.
Yeah, I think maybe we're going to have to do like some type of event like in mid-April with you. I was thinking of setting up a venue and doing like a Q&A session.
Did you ever circle back to the university? Well, we'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
University.
That's scheduled and done?
Yeah, it's
okay.
still in the summer.
And then, I thought it was spring. I could have
spring.
It was spring.
It is spring.
All right, but yeah, we should do that. That's a good idea, maybe. I mean, I'll do it. If you think there's a need for it, I'll do it.
Somebody made me laugh out loud. They said, or do a dance and then stick dollars. I love you people. But
I don't do that anymore. You know,
those are rich in the past. No,
that was rich in his 20s. Christmas trees. Oh man!
Dude, don't get rich by a pine tree. He can dance like no other.
Oh my god!
Shh! You didn't hear that.
I'm too old for that stuff now.
What you call it? There was something I wanted to say, but that threw me.
We'll do
totally
an event.
Off.
Do an event. But the Q&A thing I would do if it was like,
Not
under the impression we like the
right.
parameters were set. Jim is doing a by a question for Pennsylvania polling and Susquehanna polling. They're doing it's very similar, only they're also inviting media and others to participate. But that I'm not going to tell you what it is. I mean, but it's not a $20 a question. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the reality of this work. He wants to make sure he's going to get it right. So if you have a question suggestion, and you're making the survey bigger, he needs to make sure that he's absolutely going to get that right.
Yeah.
So he's charging what he feels that he needs to charge to make sure he gets enough responses to do it. All right. With that, I'm going to peel. I'm going to kick rocks. But don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, People's Pundit Daily. Hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we're going to go live. Like the page, People's Pundit Daily, on Facebook. If you're still a Facebook user, we'd greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. You could follow me on gitmo.life at PeoplesPundit, no underscore, and Laura at Laura Barris. All right, which you will see in my profile if you follow me anyway.
And donations, you can go
to
yes,
Venmo. You can go to fund the project still until that goes up. That will probably be up tomorrow, the page, and I'll send the link to Robert too, so we can get it out. But you could still do it now. Venmo. It's because it's going to be processed by the same providers anyway, and I'm just going to wind up taking that and putting it into that thing. Venmo.com/PeoplesPundit and PayPal.me /PeoplesPundit. PayPal.me/PeoplesPundit. It's in the descriptions.
And you can the YouTube always breaks your links.
And wait, one more thing. Locals, if you guys aren't members of the locals community, you can be paid members. Feel free to continue to send me questions. I was going to close it out. Somebody sent me a question that made me bump another one, which was redundant on healthcare. So sometimes you send me these ideas and I wouldn't see it. If I wouldn't think about it. It's like out of sight, out of mind until you send it. And then I'm like, you know what? That's different. Provides more insight. The other one's a little bit redundant. Let's swap it out. The demographics are long, but that's good. That means we'll have a lot of granular demographic stuff to go through. We'll have shows and shows where I could just pull up MarketSite on the browser while you guys watch, and we'll talk through it, and I can hit my little filters, and you can see, like I said, to answer the question on Wednesday, sure, we can look at evangelicals, white liberals, how many of them, we could do all of that. It'll be neat. We'll have days worth of data on it, and will be interesting to look at parents and school-age children with some of the questions we asked about lockdowns and school closures and healthcare. It'll be interesting. Again, and the economic stuff is that's it's not separate. They're all connected, but that's in another section with the economic. Basically mirrored how the Survey of Consumers and the Conference Board have conducted their surveys. So I think in the end, the two indexes are going to give us the two separate ones, current and future expectations, current conditions, future expectations. We're going to put that into a reading that will make a greater index. And this will be the start, the very first, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but it'll be the start of, of our own. I wish years ago I would have done something like that, but I told him to. Yeah, she told us to do it for People's Pundit Daily since we covered all the economic stuff, but monthly can be expensive, so just never did it. But we'll make it the first of this. All right, never pulled the trigger on it. All right, but with that, have a safe weekend. Don't forget to catch me on the Don Smith Show tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. I come on at 12:30, but he always, or 12:35ish, yeah. But he always has a great show lined up. So if you haven't checked out that show, check it out. And keep an eye on my Twitter and Gitmo, and if you're not on locals, and you'll see if there's anything that gets added last minute, which there may be. Apparently, Laura's just got to check on it. All right.
We appreciate your love and support. We appreciate your super hearts, your super chats, and have a fantastic, blessed weekend.
There it is. All the best, folks. All the best. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night. Just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.